Hello, this is Psychology and the Economy. If I can just remind you as you listen to this video to write the Cornell notes as best you can and also answer the questions that I'll ask as we go through the video. Once you've finished, write this up as neatly as you can into your mind map and have a little look through some of the additional textbooks. Okay, so we're going to talk about the economy. It's best we have an idea of what this is. This is primarily how goods and services are produced, how they're then distributed, and how they're then consumed by individuals. Generally, this is thought of as kind of a financial system, so goods and services tend to cost money, so it's easy to think about it in those terms. And psychology has had an effect on how these systems work and can have a direct effect on how well a country's economy can do. Probably the biggest example is the mental health system. So clearly if people are suffering from mental health disorders, to treat them directly, to have them come in for mental health counselling is going to cost money. So we've got a cost of care which is directly in the in the health service, but also social services as well deal with mental health problems and will increase their costs. So if we can deal with mental health in a more productive way, maybe reduce the chances of people getting mental health problems, then we could reduce the burden on perhaps the NHS or the social care sector. These mental health problems, though, fall across a few different areas as well. The criminal justice system is more likely to be overrepresented with people with mental health problems. So being able to deal with that in the criminal justice perspective might reduce perhaps reoffending. One of the bigger issues as well is if you have a mental health issue, then you're likely to miss quite a few days in work. If you're not in work, you're not being as productive, and the government would like to try and get people back into work as soon as possible. So two major areas of psychological research and treatment is perhaps depression and dementia. They're going to be the biggest issues in regards to the economy, mostly because they affect such a sheerly large number of people. So what can they do? Well, taking depression as the example, we've studied this in psychopathology, so we know that there are evidence-based treatments such as cognitive behavioral therapy. So the idea behind this is to try and get people ultimately to engage back with their lives and back to work. There's also biological treatments, so of course antidepressants are quite common, and if someone can take some antidepressants, which is clearly quite a cheap option, and then they get them to return to work, this would boost the economy. Another area in which psychology has an effect is social influence. So we can think about this kind of crudely as advertising, but the idea is to ultimately change people's behaviors from what they currently are to a new behavior. So this might be recycling. You might have a letter through your post that says, "Did you know 9 out of 10 of your next door neighbours recycle regularly?" It's going to put some emotional pressure on you, perhaps, to change your behavior. Smoking, drinking and drink driving. Maybe the NHS would like to reduce the amount of money it loses due to treating these problems. If you can reduce the prevalence of smoking, you can reduce drinking as well, you might be able to save the NHS some money. And you'd go about this through maybe ad campaigns or TV ad campaigns, and we're basing this on the principles of normative social influence. Next, we have criminal psychology. So obviously the justice system uses a lot of money to try and prosecute people they think are guilty of crimes. So anything that can happen to make this system fairer, perhaps more efficient, is going to be quite useful for the economy. So poor eyewitness testimony can lead to convictions that are in error, which is not only awful for the person who might have been charged, but also quite bad financially, where you've put someone in prison and paid for them to be held there when they shouldn't have been. So if you can improve the eyewitness testimony process and produce better, more secure convictions through perhaps the cognitive interview, then you're going to have a more efficient and fairer justice system. Childhood development. So the development of young children thought about in the context of The Critical Period by Bowlby, and perhaps Secure Attachment by Ainsworth, might lead to people who are happier in their lives. It might lead to people who are better educated and ultimately more productive in the economy. So if you can deal with younger children and change their behaviors, it might end up being more effective in the long run. Okay, so those are a few examples.